Hello, dear listeners. If you're new here, we're Margin Mavens, and we are obsessed with writing in our books and sharing our thoughts with you guys. Today, we are joined by Izzy, aka Read These Fics. She created a read along for the Bone season by Samantha Shannon, and as you all probably know, in Samantha Shannon, we trust. So, from the top, is this your first time reading the Bone season?
Oh no, I actually read I've read the author's preferred text twice.
Mm.
Um, and I read the original before that, back in 2020, like during the
Oh,
pandemic.
yeah. Okay. Was that how you got introduced to Samantha Shannon, or did you find her through something else?
That no, that was my first experience with Samantha Shannon. I had been a part of this group that was reading another trilogy, and the person who was running this group did not like how that trilogy ended
Mm-hmm.
and kind of went on like this war path to find a book to replace it with in our group. And she found the Bone season, and I kind of I left that group and kind of created the Read These Fics account and started getting into all sorts of other literature, including the Bone season. Yeah. Is
Nice.
it you guys' first time reading the Bone season?
Yes.
Yeah, so we had found Samantha Shannon through Priory. It was actually our
Okay.
first video on the podcast was reading
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Priory of the Orange Tree. And then we have since read Day of Fallen Night. And we had decided that we were going to read the Bone season, but we weren't sure when and how that would
hmm
work. And then I stumbled
Mm-hmm.
upon your read along, and I immediately like told Kayla, I was
Yep.
like, I think I'm going to reach out to this person because it would give us a great excuse to start the Bone season.
Correct.
Um, and
A
Good.
plus,
Yay, that
A
was what
plus
I'd hoped
timing.
for.
yeah, I was like, okay, well, I mean, like now is a good time while other people are doing it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, Samantha is so great. When she shared the read along to her page and like my starter kit and so many other things, like I really only expected like maybe 4 or 5 people to join,
mhm.
and I
Mhm.
think there are like 30 or 40 publicly like doing it,
Yeah, there's
and
like a whole Discord now, and
that I think that Discord has always existed,
mm,
but people were like looking for like me to create a space to chat
hmm
about the book in, and I've been a part of a lot of like book chats, and I love being in them, but I don't like running them. It's too stressful for me.
Yeah.
So I kind of started directing people to the Discord, and then Samantha made a post where she was like, go to this Discord. So they're a separate entity, but I think some of them are participating as well. Yeah.
that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah. So you plan on doing a read along for the whole series? How many books are there? I haven't.
The fifth
Uh,
one is coming out next year.
yeah, the
Kayla's
fifth
on
one
it.
comes out in February. Yeah, if you and then there's the two novellas. There's The Pale Dreamer, which is the prequel, and then The Dawn Chorus, which takes place in between the Song Rising and the Mask Falling.
Mm.
And guys, it's so good if you like hurt comfort. If you're a hurt comfort girly.
Yeah, I mean, I love everything about her books. I like
Yeah.
that she creates really intricate worlds, but I'm overwhelmed only for a little bit before it all starts kind of making sense. I felt that
Hmm.
way with A Day of Fallen Night, where I think I read the like first 10 pages like a few times because I was like, man, they're throwing a lot at us right now. And it was kind of
Yeah.
the same thing with the World of the Bone season because obviously
Yeah.
we get Paige, and how she's like involved in the syndicate and all of these things. But like then to see everything that she knows isn't all that there is to know. I was like, man, like she and I are in the same boat right now because we have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
And so that was pretty cool.
the original version, I really had to like if you even look at my like Goodreads review of the original version, I'm like, please, I'm begging you, just push through these first like 6 chapters.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yes.
not as hard to follow as it seems.
Right.
It's so good. And then when she announced she was doing the preferred text, I like a lot of people were really upset because they really wanted the next book.
Mm-hmm.
we had gotten this Chongus of Priory and
Yeah.
no news on the Dark Mirror. But I was really excited because I did feel like, and she's admitted this herself, it did feel like a very young version of herself writing the first version. It was still very good, but the exposition was much more info dumpy. And so when the author's preferred text came out, I decided I was going to read two things I hadn't read before by her, which was On the Merits of Unnaturalness, and that's the pamphlet that takes like 30 minutes to read,
Mm-hmm.
and The Pale Dreamer. And both of those, if you read both of those before the main installment, it gives you so much context for all that like exposition at the beginning, and
Yeah.
it makes it flow so good. Like, I can't recommend people read those two extra pieces enough.
It's a good idea.
I'd
Probably
probably
should have done that.
Yeah, well, we did that
You
we
absolutely
did that with Priory too though, was we read it in like publication order.
should.
And so
Yeah.
I tend to try to not to like dig too deep into threads about the things that I'm about to read.
Spoiler.
Cuz spoilers. And so like I think even like Samantha a couple weeks ago while I was still reading the Bone season, she like posted something and I think she put like spoiler in the caption. I was like, I need to go. I can't know anything you're
Yeah.
telling me.
I I completely like Samantha, like, because I made a kit, and
Mhm.
she had commented that she approved of my reading order of On the Merits, Pale Dreamer, Bone Season. But sometimes I do recommend that you just dive into the Bone Season, read it in like go Bone Season, Pale Dreamer, skip On the Merits, and keep going. But I think if you're doing a reread and you need a refresh, the order I put in my kit is the best. It really depends on like if you're left or right brained, I think,
Yeah.
on which way you want to read it. I
Gotcha.
should just do a whole new post on that, honestly.
It's a
Yeah,
good,
I
good
I'm,
content idea.
can I ask you two a question as two people who love Priory and Day of Fallen Night? It felt like, because I've read Priory, I haven't read Day of Fallen Night yet. It felt like a completely different writer, and
Yes.
not like in a bad way, but just she does switch gears to high fantasy from
Yes.
like dystopia.
yeah, I think I love both genres very much. Like I've always
Yeah.
my reading history throughout growing up and everything has always been very like stuck in both. Um but there is I think a very distinct voice to her Priory books. I think having only read the first Bone season, I think the Priory books there's just a lot more meat to the world. Like you
There's more
can
world building
there's a
in
lot more
the.
High
world building in
fantasy,
that
yeah.
one. Yeah, and
Yeah.
so like I really enjoyed knowing exactly why things were happening the way that they were, what was the circumstance that brought them to this point kind of thing. Obviously with dystopian it's just kind of like everything kind of sucks and we're not sure why. Um but yeah, I think the Bone seasons are a lot more like palatable, I think, than Priory.
Oh, I that is so interesting. I've had so many people say that it's like so hard, it like just distinctly not palatable just because of how
Mm.
grim it is. But I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah, like I
Um,
think it was a lot easier for me to follow along
Yes.
with the Bone season. Like
yeah,
it took a little bit, like you said, to get into it. But with
yeah,
like the Priory, I felt like I was constantly having to like look back at like something that
You
they
have to
said
like keep
previously.
track. You have to like
Yeah.
keep
I'm
notes
like,
with
God, I have to
Priory.
write the genealogy down and like
Yeah.
who are we talking about right now?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Whereas with the Bone season, and I think that also comes from like reader background. Like if you grew up like I did reading like Hunger Games and Divergent and like all of these big dystopian novels, you got used to the like grim setting, you know? And it's also I
Yeah,
teach English and so like a lot of the stuff that we go over is very grim.
yeah.
Um and so yeah, I definitely think the Bone season was a lot easier to understand as you were going because the Bone season
Mhm.
itself has like a crap ton of characters, right?
Oh
but
yeah,
the but the Priory has a crap ton of characters in very different geographical locations dealing with very different cultures and backgrounds and all of these like things. There's a lot of like
yeah.
cog wheels in the machine, whereas the
Yeah.
Bone season it's all within like one section of the world, you know,
Hmm.
so we get some
Hmm.
info on like the the stuff in like Ireland and like all of these other places, right? But it's all still contained to that one area, if that
I
makes
will
sense.
say, as like without this is not a spoiler for the future Bone Season books. She does answer so many questions about how Scion works
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and how it expands, which is what for me made it. Because here's the thing about dystopian books, it kind of like fairy books now. Once one becomes popular, there are a jillion that come out, and
Mm-hmm.
only some of them sort of stand out. And that's like the
Right.
nature of marketing and trending. Like people are going to
Yeah.
follow the trend and put their spin on it. And what made Samantha's stand out to me in particular is that some honestly a little bit more than Hunger Games, and that makes sense because that's a YA book and a Bone Season is adult. It really seems like Samantha Shannon understands one how revolutions work, and two how autocracy and authoritarianism works.
Right.
She really goes at it because like when you look at the Hunger Games, it's a really
Mm-hmm.
good like baby's first dystopia, baby's first
Mhm.
Yeah.
revolution. But like in reality, if we were to for like 75 years throw children to their death, a revolution would have happened way sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of control over the districts. They're kind of just left to their devices.
Yeah. That's
Right.
why the
And
rebellion sparks so quickly when it
yeah,
does. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And it's led by a teenager.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then in the Bone Season, like Samantha Shannon gets into literature is controlled, music is controlled, the street lamps are
Yeah.
blue, there's approved clothing, approved haircuts.
Yeah.
And she really just gets into the meat of why everyone feels so powerless and
Mm-hmm.
why revolution is hard.
Yeah. I think even within the society that she gets pulled into and stuff, seeing the difference between those who decided they were going to be like the entertainers versus those who wanted to be
Mhm.
like get their jackets and stuff. It's like
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
telling because it's super easy for someone to look at the situation and be like, "Oh, I would never want to just be an entertainer. I would want to like fight my way through." But
Right.
then you realize like some of these people have been here for years and years and years, right? And there's always going to be viewed as lesser. Like no matter how, that's why like Warden was such like an anomaly within that thing, and
Yeah.
that's why I think it was really hard for Paige at times to understand just how bad things were for the entertainers, because she was
Mhm.
like, man, like they're treated so badly, but like for whatever reason this one guy, he doesn't treat me like that. Like he's
Yeah.
never struck me, he's never done all these things. And they're like, no, you need to fear these men. Like, you need to fear anytime they look at you. And she's like, but this guy.
Yeah.
And Paige really does luck out in every world that she's in because she
Mhm.
with in
This,
London, she's
yeah.
with the White Binder, who's like
Right.
he's not like the Under King, he's not the head, but he is somebody everyone fears, and she's his most prized possession. And then when she gets into the penal colony, she's under Warden, who's the consort of like the Nashira,
Uh huh.
and he's nice to her.
Yeah.
And I think what Paige learns and how she changes, and that's the thing about Paige, is she always changes throughout the series. Her big thing in this first book is not only realizing that her relationship with Jackson is purely transactional, but also that she in each community she ends up being a part of, she reaps so much privilege from
Mhm.
how where she's placed on the food chain because of this gift.
Mm hmm.
And she learns in the Bone Season that it's up to her to leverage that and
Yes.
make it worth it to everybody else to work with her, because she's constantly like badgering the performers at first, like, come on, fight, 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 and doesn't
Yeah.
think about the fact that in a
And then she's like,
revolution,
wait, they're
people just
like freezing and have no food and
Mhm.
they're,
Yeah.
they live in towels. They
yeah.
live
Yeah.
towel houses. Like,
Yeah.
and that can all be ripped away. And Paige has to understand that revolutions will hurt those people more
Mm
than
hmm.
it
Right.
will hurt her. And she has to figure out how to make it worth it to them and carry that on her shoulders. But beyond that, with the people like earning their tunics, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
the parallels drawn between Nashira and Jackson were insane. And she looks at what's the name of that little jerk who with Carl.
Carl?
Yeah, I was like, he's got a jerk name too.
He's got such a bad name.
Yeah.
Carl. Sorry to any Carls out there.
I'm not.
No.
After that book, no. But like he I think Paige looks at him and sees kind of herself, like he is Nashira's molisher, so to speak. He's ready to like squish everybody under his boots so that he can have a good life, just like Paige in London as Jackson's molisher.
Right.
Yep.
And I think Warden sees it before her too, because he's like peeking into her memories, and he's like, I just love that one of Warden's things he does for her that feels like such a boyfriend move is like, your boss is bad to you.
Yeah.
Yeah. He treats you like garbage.
Right.
Yeah, I think like I really like Warden because he reminds me of somebody who's like gone to therapy talking to somebody who hasn't. You know, like he's like, I'm just gonna push you towards this like self-actualization that you need. But like it's not my place to put you through therapy, but I think you need it. You know, like
He's decided he's her boyfriend.
yeah,
He's gonna
from like day
Yeah.
one. And like that's the thing too, is because I remember in obviously with the whole our shtick and stuff is us writing in our books and everything. But I remember like upon meeting him, I was like, enemies to lovers question mark. And then as we learned more about him, right, I was like, he never viewed her as enemy. You know?
No, the worst thing he felt towards her, I think, was suspicion.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
And
Distrust.
like, how could he not?
Yeah.
Because of what happened before. And she like literally looks at him before she knows his story and goes, you brought the wrong voyant here.
Yeah.
And then you learn what you learn about Warden's
Mhm.
first attempt, and you're like, oh, that had to suck to hear.
Yeah, because he's like, oh crap.
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe I did.
Yeah, and I you know, I really love listen, in every fantasy book and every book that I read, right, I am always looking for those like little nuggets of romance. And so seeing him like through her eyes, everything that he was doing and like taking care of her kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just to constantly hear her be like, oh, he's doing this to gain my trust. He's still a bad guy. And I'm like, he doesn't need to gain your trust. Like he's in a position of power here. But circling back to what you were saying about her privilege and stuff, that actually reminded me of the scene in, I think it's Mockingjay Part 1, where like
The hospital?
no. When one of the forgot their name, the overseers or whatever, he is going and he's like hitting Gale, right? And Katniss gets in the way.
Yeah.
That it reminded me a lot of that in terms of she knew that she was, you know, deemed special in the eye of everyone, and she was like, you don't want to do this kind of thing. Because like I have a wedding coming up and it'll be like the Capitol will be upset and all of these things. And I think that's really interesting to see those like parallels of it, of once again like different dystopian. Yeah, and then you're like
an adult.
yeah. So that was really cool. But yeah, I loved Warden. I loved seeing Paige find her little like knit group of found family within this place was really nice. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name, but the
Julian?
one no
Julian? Michael.
I'm thinking of the one that she was constantly
in love with.
Yeah, or she thought she was in love with. Yeah,
Nick.
I really loved Nick because he also is like aware of his own privilege in the sense of like, I'm in the syndicate kind of thing, but I'm not in it for the money. Like I'm doing it because I think it's like
he can compartmentalize like
Yeah.
nobody's business.
yeah, like he's like, I'm doing a lot of terrible things sometimes, but
Yeah.
We love Nicholas Nygaard. He's great. And good with kids. Like
Yeah.
no wonder Paige was in love with him. Like
Yeah.
he's perfect.
I want them to like have a conversation about that at some point, you know, because, you know, he tells her about his feelings, and I think it's funny to me because he has such a like guy reaction of like, I'm talking to my bestie about my feelings for someone else. Yeah. And then she's like, obviously gets upset. And he's like,
what happened?
My bestie is mad at me. Why? Yeah. And then he has that like realization. And then obviously everything goes to garbage.
She wrote that scene so well. I
It
remember
hurt.
my stomach just, my heart fell into my stomach
and
out my butt. I was like, oh,
it hurt so
baby
bad.
Girl.
Yeah.
It was, I was like, oh no. Oh like, no.
I was like, you ran headfirst into this and it hurt. It hurt.
Because we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
We've been there.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no.
Crime syndicate and fallen in love with our coworker who was married for another coworker. We've all done it.
We've all, you know, ran across rooftops before he declares his undying love to someone else. Yeah, I think like, and that scene was super funny to me because she's obviously being pushed really hard by Jackson in that point. Like they're treating the other guy terribly and like all of these things. And then Nick is just like, let's go frolic across the city real quick.
Yeah.
I need to get out of here.
I do love that so much because like I think that's one of the things that makes it such a good dystopia is that these characters are living in these absolutely inhuman times, but they do these very human things like, oh, that was a bad day at work. You want to go like shoot the somewhere else?
Right.
Like, those little moments and like, you know, like we were saying, we've all had a crush and it been unrequited, and it helps you relate to Paige a lot more, who is kind of, you know, utterly unrelatable, but she has all these little moments that make you go, oh, I'm Paige. Like, and I know so many people who have read these books and who like, they're all different kinds of people, and everyone can relate to Paige on some level. Whether it's like her bad relationship with her job, her strained relationship with her heritage, her relationship with figuring out her sexuality. There's just Samantha Shannon's crafted just such a beautiful character that anybody can see themselves in, not because she's like a Lego brick with no personality, but because she is so fundamentally a human being.
Yeah, I think she's really cool. I liked learning about the world around her through a lens of someone who didn't know what was going on. Like you were learning as she was learning, and that was really cool because I think so often in fantasies, especially I think with like Priory and stuff, giving as an example, is the characters know the history, they know the whys of everything. And so it was really refreshing to do it through the eyes of a character who's like, I also have no idea why the hierarchy is the way that it is. You know, I'm also just figuring things out. The scene that really hurt me was when she finds out that Warden is like looking through her memories and stuff. I was like, oh, as such a private person, I would want to die. Like, I would be like, oh no.
You're so right. It is such like a violation. And the way that Samantha Shannon wrote Warden, like, I think if he had been written any other way, we might not have forgiven him as easily.
Right.
I don't know if you guys know this, but in the original, not the published version, but like in her personal first draft, she said that Warden was very like alpha male. He was very like barking orders.
Gross.
She said she felt she was 16 and she was kind of like iterating all the love interests she'd seen before, and said that she didn't really like this dynamic of this guy being like bossy and alpha and mean.
And then also doing the terrible thing.
And then also doing the terrible thing of invading her privacy.
Yeah.
And I love that when she went in and redid because like I still have the original version. He's in this new version and the old version, he's always been this very like gentle giant, with a heart of gold, very cautious. And I like that she walked it back because, you know,
it would have been hard to forgive him. It would have been like, oh, you're an
hard.
ass. Yeah. You're an asshole. and you did this terrible thing.
Yeah.
You know, at least then you're like, oh, okay, he doesn't trust us. He's trying to figure out, you know, like,
Yeah.
he's
We're
trying
not
to
giving him much, so like
he's doing
gonna
what he
do what
has
he
to
needs to
do. Like,
do. Yeah.
he's like, his end game is not to hurt us. Like, it's cool. And I like that he, like, in those moments is also super apologetic about it. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, I knew that this was not a good thing to be doing, but I didn't know what else to do. You know,
Yeah,
like,
his justification is so good because he's like, I know it sucks, but like an entire movement cannot be reliant on one person's feelings.
Right.
Sacrifices have to be made.
yeah.
And I think that that's a big realization for Paige too, is like,
Mhm.
this whole movement is bigger than me.
Right.
And
It's not about her anger or vengeance.
or not about her feelings. It's about the freaking performers out there who are going to be left to be a meme. It's about the other people. And, you know, I think that Paige has been forced into a circumstance where she's justified in fighting for her own survival and being very selfish. So it is a big character growth moment for her to decide that she will put herself aside for other people still less fortunate than herself. It's such a relevant, good book.
Yeah.
And I think you see that a lot at the end when she makes the choice to leave, because I feel like beginning of the book, Paige would have chosen to stay because that's what she wanted, but in the end she chooses to leave.
You mean?
Yeah, leave. Well,
Yeah.
leave on the train, leave Warden
Yeah.
behind, because it's the one person that she has that really like is looking out for her and her well-being, and she willingly leaves that because she knows she has to get back to London so that she can continue to dismantle, you know, this oppressive system.
And stuff.
Yeah.
And also her choice to like go against Jackson. And the choice of like the other pillars to be like, you know, he can't fire us all kind of thing. Like that is also like the solidarity that is so desperately needed in
a revolution.
Is, you know, these people who would benefit more from the system staying the way that it is, right? Or like, no, we have to, you know, work with you here. And that was super sweet. But speaking of performers,
oh god,
they didn't need to do that to her. You know, they didn't need to do that. They
could not catch a break the whole
yeah.
No.
And like no, they didn't have to do that to her. I'm trying to think repeatedly, you know,
like you're trying to justify it and you can't because there's no way to justify it.
Other than it being like if we're continually talking about the like parallels of Hunger Games, right? Which never, you know, all of those things. No, I was gonna say like Rue is the parallel to the first boy that she is like told to kill and she doesn't. Yeah.
Bastion. Yeah.
I agree. That's that because she's like, they're gonna just keep doing this, you know? And then I think Liz becomes the parallel to like of like
I see that.
And it hurts a lot to me, you know, of like she's finally starting to step into her own. She finally was able to agree that a revolution was necessary. She was willing to like fight on that side kind of thing. And then it gets taken away by a random third party that didn't. Yeah, it hurts me. It hurts me a lot. Also knowing that it wasn't because she messed up. You know, like if it was an accident, like if it was an accident and like she just genuinely like something went wrong, that's one thing, but to have it be like malicious intent is crazy to me.
That was going to happen is wild when you read it again because they keep saying over and over again, oh, Liz never falls.
Yeah.
She never falls. And I'm like, fall.
Yeah. Yeah, it was painful.
Yeah. Well, and I think, you know, there's something to dystopian books and having this like enduringly good character who also like provides the hero with a bit of hope. Because that's what Prim does for Katniss. And then Liz also gives Paige that card reading where she's like, this is your future, here's the good, here's the bad.
Yeah.
And more than anything, like at that time, Paige doesn't think she has a future that has any autonomy in it. And she goes, no, here it is. Here's all the good and bad things are going to happen. And I think in a way that gives Paige hope. Like she is going to have some form of autonomy because of these cards. And like Liz dies and Paige never learns what that final card is and has to go on. And yeah, I think that that's such a, also I think that it did a really good job of just like establishing stakes. Like Samantha Shannon lets you know, like, oh,
no one is safe. And I knew that. I knew that with Samantha. She has hurt me in so many ways.
But even in Priory and A Day of Fallen Night, it was never at the level that it was in Bone Season. No, she could have chopped so many more people down in Priory, and she did not.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about who she chops down in Day of Fallen Night, and she hurts me. Okay,
I haven't got to that one yet, but I have heard that it's a bit more intense.
Yeah, because I think the stakes are the same in both, but I think. Listen, don't make faces at me.
I can make faces at you, but I'm listening.
I think Priory sets the stage really well of can't cut too many people off at the knees because you have to continue to be attached to the universe and the history and stuff like that. There would be a sense of like, what's the point if we watched a character die in Priory just to see their beginning in Day of Fallen Night? Like there would have been some tension there because then it's like they went through all of this just to have this happen. And so Day of Fallen Night I think is really painful. No, yeah, I never trust anything that she does. I trust her that I'll enjoy the book, but that's where my trust with her ends, you know?
She is ruthless, and I'm excited for you guys to get deeper into the series, because like she really just does do what sequels should do and raises the stakes with every single book.
Solid. I hate that.
Yeah. So, hey, I've been here since 2020. Nobody hates him more than me. I am very excited to finally get the Dark Mirror, but at the same time, like I know that means I'm going to be waiting.
Yeah,
because how many books do we have? Like a set?
7.
Okay,
7 I think is the number. It's like the number of cards.
Oh, as well. Cool.
Yeah, one for each card. I think. I don't know. That's what I think it is.
It's cool. Maybe if we're lucky, Samantha herself will comment on this episode, you know?
Oh, honestly, she is so good at interacting with her fan base.
Yeah, she liked one of our posts and we squealed.
I love the way she interacts with her fan base. It's very, very, she's got some good lines, I think. She doesn't do DMs. She does, like, she'll repost everybody's stuff. She doesn't have to do that. And like, she always, she's been so kind, in particular on like, I made like a starter kit. And on one of the slides, it listed like personality traits of the characters. And I listed on one of them that Arcturus was pansexual. And somebody got in the comments and decided to like have a bone to pick about that, telling her that she didn't have that word when the book came out. She couldn't have known that, and accused her of just saying that, just
so, like pandering,
be inclusive. Yeah, and she was like, sexuality has existed forever.
Here's a paper I wrote.
Like, she very kindly just like told this person, take several seats. Pansexuality has existed for a while. This is who the character is. I'm not pandering to anybody.
Right.
And like that, I didn't expect her to even comment on that. But like, I like Samantha so much because she is so mindful all the time, especially with the diversity in this series. There's so many different people.
I love it.
And I think when you're talking about revolution, it really is important to show a bunch of different types of people who are involved in it.
Yeah, I kudos to her.
Including bags like Kath, who I don't know if you guys remember, Liz's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
I forget about her every time. sucks.
Yeah.
I cannot even like when she comes into Lys's tent. I would love to know you guys' reactions to the whole because you guys know at that point how important Numa is.
Mm-hmm.
And when she threw the cards in the furnace, what was going through you guys' heads?
I was honestly expecting
ready to
Paige to
fight.
kill her. I was expecting Paige to kill her. Like I was
a little upset that didn't happen.
I was like, man, I know that I had a feeling that she wasn't gonna make it out of the interaction, whether it was Paige's doing or somebody else's doing. I had a feeling she wouldn't, because like she would an example would have had to be made of her, of like, you can't go around doing this kind of thing. 100% would have preferred if Paige was the one that killed her. But I get it, because if she would have killed her, a lot of other people would. I understand, but I definitely think
delicate house of cards, and Paige had to make her choices accurately.
Yeah,
but
like
would have loved
if she was just reckless for a second and be like, "I'm gonna kill you and pay the consequences," you know. That really like solidified, I think, my love for Warden, because when he hears everything coming up about, and he like shows up, right? Everybody kind of looks at him and is like, "Are you going to do something about Paige here?" And he's like, "We'll deal with this in private." And then he just like feeds her, you know, like I just, like that.
Take care of her.
Like I like that everybody is constantly telling Warden, like, "You're not punishing her, you're not, you know, showing her obedience or whatever." And he's like, "You're gonna judge the way that I'm doing this? I'm showing her obedience, and she's running wild and doing whatever she wants," because he's like, "Let's go, that's my girl."
Arcturus, you're not the boss of me, Miss Arthur.
Yeah,
Every
like
time,
yeah. I'm interested to see more of Nashira and seeing how she's like dealing with this rebellion kind of thing, because she has this like arrogance to her that's obviously fueled from like centuries of dominance and all of these things. And to be so smug to believe that, like, listen, maybe I'm just a pessimistic person, right? But if somebody I was with staged a coup that failed miserably, right? I wouldn't really care too much about appearances. I'd be like, I need to get this person out of here. They might do it again. You know? So like her arrogance and her smugness, thinking that like Warden just like fell in line kind of thing, is crazy to me. Cause I'm like, really, it's your fault. You trusted.
That's pride for you.
Yeah, I'm like, this guy said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I won't do it again. I've learned my lesson," you know? And then he's learned his lesson, but not to not do it again. He's learned to be very picky about who he trusts.
Fatal flaws are fatal for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that one of her flaws is that she is kind of addicted to like breaking people.
Yeah.
She likes to believe that she can do that. And it seems like the whole Sargus bloodline has like kind of an addiction to breaking people, like Thuban and Ivy, and
they all kind of suck equally.
Yeah.
Seeing
all suck equally.
Seeing the poltergeist lock and finding out that it was Sebastian hurt me.
Yeah.
It hurt.
That felt unnecessary.
Unnecessary was the word. I was like, damn, that was hard.
Yeah, I was like, man, like I had a bad feeling. I was like, it's gonna be somebody that she knows, because she can only make it go away if she knows their name and like all of these things. And so then when he's like, you know, like, "You weren't able to save me," I was like, oh.
I cried so hard too.
Yeah, I was like, she has been haunted by you forever.
Truly.
You know, like,
honestly, Sebastian is such a good touch, because I believe the reason they give for bringing in one why am I blanking on the word? What do they call them?
Amorotic?
Rotties, as they nickname them. They bring in one, normal person, is because they reap the privilege from everyday society. They should have to serve here. Right. And then here, Paige sees him get locked up in the it's called City of Fools, is what it translates to in Latin, Domus Stultorum or whatever. And she like has pity on him even though like he called her an unnatural, he was like
Yeah.
so terrible to her.
Yeah.
I think that there's like this thing in writing called kick the dog. And it's where you put a character in a scenario where they can either help a dog or kick the dog when it's down. And Sebastian, I think, serves as like the dog character,
Mhm.
and Samantha Shannon shows you Paige's character and how she reacts to the dog. And just, I think that's one way that we very quickly are won over by Paige, despite everything kind of reckless about her. Is she will always help people.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yes.
think that was super cool. Speaking of writing, as
Mhm.
I stalk Izzy, I came
Yeah.
to learn you're writing a book.
Yeah, I've been working on it for like almost 2 years now. Yeah.
Do you have anything you'd like to share with us about this book?
Um,
You could have just
just that
been no.
no, no, that would be so lame. Actually, like, um, my husband is really into apocrypha, and he started telling me, which is basically like biblical fan fiction.
Gotcha.
Um, and I don't know, I found it super interesting. So he told me about these guys called the Watchers, and they were like this angel task force
Mm-hmm.
sent down to Earth, and they saw humans and they were like, "Ooh, humans, they're kind of bad. I kind of like these babes." And then they got together and they made Nephilim children, and
Mhm.
then God got revenge on them for that. And I was like, why does that sound like such bait for like a cool world? So I like kind of took this Christian mysticism and mixed it with Victorian London, and it's like a loose Adam and Eve retelling.
I'm here
Oh,
for it.
Caleb. Yeah. I was like, the moment you said Victorian, I was like, damn.
I'm obsessed with the 1890s. Like they were such a horrific time.
Terrible.
Um,
Absolutely the worst.
and and in a weird way, I find such hope in that time because it was so bad, and people like we made it out, and that's such
Yeah.
a hopeful, beautiful thing. And growing up, I went to a fundamentalist school, and
Mm.
I got kicked out of class a few times for being like, "Hey, Eve was just curious. She didn't know, and if
Mhm.
like God's in charge of everything, like he could have stopped her from doing that. That doesn't seem fair." And like get out of the class with
Ow.
me.
Yeah.
You're spreading
And
blasphemy.
Yeah.
well, I would go home to my dad, who was like a religion major, and I would ask him the questions. And he would be very encouraging. And he would be like, that is such a good take on Eve. Like, she is so sympathetic. Like, if you like Eve, you should look into Lilith. And
Yeah.
he was a lot better and
There's a
about
reason he
those
got the
questions.
degree.
There's a reason.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is just like an exploration of all the things that I've ever found kind of fishy growing up in like I grew up in Tennessee and now I'm in Los Angeles. Never going back.
Yeah, I was
And
like, what a change.
Yeah.
it's just it's me exploring that kind of stuff in my favorite setting of the 1890s. It's like Carnival Row, but instead of fairies, it's fallen angels.
Here
Nice.
for it.
Yeah,
Here for
Nice.
it.
it's a lot
Have
of
you ever
fun.
read, not sorry to interrupt, have you ever read the
No.
like Fallen series by Lauren Kate?
No, but I've seen the movie, which not many people. I own it on DVD.
Yeah, and so there's like a couple book series that came out around the same time that I don't know if like the authors were beefing, right? But they're like the same story. So
Oh yeah.
there's like Fallen by Lauren Kate, right? And then there's Hush Hush.
Hush Hush by
Yeah.
Becca Fitzpatrick. I read that one.
But like you should really read Fallen by Lauren Kate cuz it's so
Okay.
good. Um
hmm
it's on my bookshelf cuz I was obsessed with it as a teenager
I
and
might
stuff.
have to. I keep
Yeah.
seeing it out and about, and I'm like, I gotta read that. Here's the thing. I Samantha Shannon has talked about how the Bone Season series ends. She gets asked all the time because I think that this series has
Yeah.
been going on for like 10 years or something now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
All the time people are like, is it a happily ever after? And she will not answer the question. She was like, I know what the ending's going to be, and and it's exactly what the story needs. And honestly, I love hearing that. I love hearing that somebody has had an ending in mind and that it's what the story needs. I do not need it to be happy. I just need it to make sense. I think that like when it comes to villains in the Bone season, I love to hear who everybody finds the most despicable because some people say Kath, some say Carl, some say Nashira, some say Thuban. I think it really does show
Their
what
moral
sorts of
boundaries.
cruelty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and everybody who chafes you the most? People who pick on the weak, people who systemically try to like devour a whole system. It's just traitors. Like it's just it's a book that really just like when you read it with somebody else, and that's been the most fun part of the read along is like seeing who people get the most mad at.
I don't remember
It's
his
so
name, but the
fun.
guy that I didn't like was the one that like sold all his stuff for like favors.
Ducky.
Yeah. He's
Yeah.
he's a little high up there for my dislike list because I'm like, these people are already suffering so much and you're like taking advantage of it because you have the
That
things
tracks
they
for you.
need. Yeah.
He knows firsthand how desperate they are and he takes advantage of it.
Yeah. He's pretty
Yeah,
high up there.
I
Take him at his knees.
that's a that character, he is so like there's not a single character that I'm ever that's a thing that's in these books where there's like a huge cast. I think it's easy to read them and be like, oh, this guy again. Like I always get
Yeah.
so bored when this guy shows up. And I can honestly say that in the Bone season, there's not a single character that
Nope.
shows up that I'm like, I can't do this with you right now. I'm just always like, oh, what are you
Solid.
gonna do? I want to like as you guys keep reading because it's your first time in the series, um, somebody to keep an eye on that I'm keeping an eye on this time around. Definitely David and Ivy. Those two. And then like of course any of the rebel Rephaim that you've met so far. Those are
Yeah.
some ones to
Forgot
keep
their
eyes
name. The one
on.
that like helped Paige not get caught.
Terabel.
Yeah. They seem cool, but
Terabel.
I don't know them enough, you know?
Yeah.
Everybody, I'm going to say this in the Bone season, nobody is just one thing.
Yeah.
Um, as is the case in like these sort of scenarios where people are pushed to their breaking point, people do and respond very differently. I think it's like it's so many characters, it's impossible to truly hate them because you see their circumstances and you're like, damn, that is hard.
They're just trying to survive a
Unless it's
dystopian.
Carl, he
Yeah.
can get wrecked.
Yeah,
Yeah.
unless it's
100%.
Carl.
Unless it's
Mans
freaking
didn't
Carl.
even let himself suffer long enough to like
The way that man just was like, yeet, okay, I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's like, oh,
No
okay.
spine. No spine. Not a one to be
How
had.
quickly he gobbled up Hope, or not, what did not Hope, her name is Paige. How quickly he gobbled up Hope, Paige, getting really into like, when she was like feigning, like, I'm gonna do what I have to do, and he's like, good.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so sad how badly he wants people to get on board.
Truly.
Ugh. It's but yeah, I'm glad you guys are liking it. I've noticed that some people who read and enjoyed Priory don't really like the Bone season as much. And I
It
think
is a
that's
big
very
difference.
fair. Yeah, it's a huge difference.
Yeah, if they don't like
Like,
dystopian, then it's a toughie.
Yeah.
You
I've
know?
told a lot of people
There's no dragons
like,
in this one.
No.
there's no dragon, and vice versa. I've had a lot of Bone season friends go read Priory and they're like, oh, I don't know. I wanted to really like it and I didn't. And I'm like, it's a completely different genre,
Yep.
written in a completely different voice.
And
It
it's
makes total
far
sense.
more linear than the Bone season comes off as, to me anyway. Like
I
there's
mean,
a
yeah, I think
beginning, middle, end with Priory. Like it's essentially a standalone. It's not a series, so you don't have that like continuing like zigzag of plot lines and things like that.
yeah. I will say I love the first Bone season. The second book is way better. Like the first Bone season is great, but the Mime Order is, I've said it a million times on socials, is my favorite.
Nice. That's exciting.
it's such a good 3-act structure. And yeah,
I'm here for it.
I also like The Mask Falling. The Mask Falling put me in a reading slump for 2 months.
Oh no,
I don't want that.
we're not doing that this
We
year.
got a schedule.
Notice how we finished The Mask Falling in November, and The Dark Mirror comes out 2 months later. So yeah, I will say I finished The Mask Falling, and that one is so good. I'm not ashamed to admit I was on and off again crying over The Mask Falling for probably 2 weeks after I finished it.
Nice.
Just because
nice.
she does
That's how I was with Fallout.
If you're not laying on the floor after, like, what are you doing?
If you're not yelling at the author, you know,
Yeah,
like
if you're not wanting to have a one-on-one conversation with the author after, are you even a reader?
I remember when The Mask Falling came out, like I had dove into the book right when The Mask Falling came out, and I devoured the whole series. It was this, I had taken a week off of work, and I read the first Bone season. I finished it in like 3 days, and then I like looked at my husband. I was like, "We're going to the bookstore, and we're picking up the rest of these books right now." And I came home and I had the rest of them. Mask Falling had just come out that week, and I binged the rest of them in that week that I was off. And
well, then yeah, that makes sense why you were in a slump for 2 months.
Yeah.
yeah,
You got the recipe for reading slump, and we're like, I need to follow it to a T.
I'm hoping spreading it out is gonna help people a little bit. Also, they're very heavy books, so
They are.
I've been advising people, like, you know, maybe if you don't stick to the schedule, read it at your own pace. Take that 2 weeks in between to read something like light and nice, and then come
We don't
back.
know light and nice
We
here.
don't know. Yeah.
Like,
no. We read Bone season, and then we did One Dark Window at the same time, and then we did Two Twisted Crowns after. And top of that, we were finishing up the Dark Olympus series.
when I tell you, so for our listeners and stuff like that, every time you guys see a video come out, chances are we had finished and recorded that minimum like 2 weeks prior. There are some exceptions to this rule. And so we have like a constant every Sunday have to meet and be like, what are the books that we are reading this week? And there's always like at least 2. Because we're trying to make sure there's constant like content out. It's also like big like escapism for me. Can't speak for Kayla or anything, but like it's
100%.
It's over the summer, obviously as a teacher, I wasn't working. And so I had a lot more time to read and everything. But then now, like my brain never shuts off because is the nature of teaching. And so now like reading and everything has been like a godsend this past week because we just started the school year up this past Thursday. Wow. And so it's been really nice to be like, oh, I can like take a breather and not focus on like these gremlin children that are going to like
infect you with various diseases.
Me with everything, you know? I'm like, I can't.
They're little disease magnets, yeah.
The amount of vitamin C that I'm ingesting now is crazy.
Yeah, when I used to be a nanny, I would drink so much vitamin
the emergency stuff, yeah.
Yeah. I would pop that into a 5-hour energy with some orange juice. Mix it up. Listen, I was like,
I would want you to take care of my kids. I would want you to take care of them. that person is alert. Nothing can get past them.
You would need that just for my 4-year-old.
Oh, definitely. I don't know how this person did it, because like what went through my brain was like, I do this for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and she does it the rest of the time. I couldn't. She had a 6-month-old, a 2-year-old, and a 3-year-old.
Absolutely not.
And she, you know, I admire her so much. She did this with such efficiency. Like she even told me, she was like, I know it seems like a lot, but I just wanted to get it all out of the way in my early 20s. And I was like, sure.
Not wrong. Not wrong on that though.
Yeah,
not wrong on that.
And they would take a nap every day. They were really well-behaved kids. They have to be
on a military schedule.
Their dad was in the military.
Yeah.
So they were.
There it is.
There it is.
They would lay down, they would sleep, and then I would read Divergent on the couch until they woke up.
That's a good life.
Which, I never read past book 1. Because I got a spoiler for how it ends. And
I get it.
I couldn't get there.
It's
I
really
was like,
hard.
oh no.
I get it. I think not to draw on that conversation for too long or anything. I have it hurts me when an author does it, but I have no issue if an author kills a character and it makes sense.
Yeah, if it needs, then do it.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, that sucks. I'm gonna cry about it for a while, but like, you did what you thought you needed to do. That's cool. I think. No hate to Veronica Roth. I love you. If you ever listen to this, I am not slandering you. Um, I think what happens at the end of Divergent when I read it and even now as an adult still stands to me as there's a lot of dystopian novels coming out. I need to do something that is different. And
Yeah,
in all of
I
these other
agree.
dystopian novels, the main character like gets their version of a happily ever after. And
Sure.
so to have it be something that doesn't happen Divergent is what makes it stand out. It's something that like that's the reason people are still talking about the ending, so long after it happens.
Yeah.
But it has never
Well, you
sat
really
right with
hate
me.
yourself.
It has really not ever sat with me.
You really hate yourself. I knew this. Like I knew you were masochist, and now this just like really like more extra pieces of the puzzle.
Why am I catching strays right now?
Wait, speaking of like literature from that time, and doing things differently. Samantha Shannon actually cut a plot line from the Bone season series that I can tell you guys about, and it won't do any spoilers for you.
Heck yeah.
Originally, at some point in the series, apparently Paige was going to be pregnant with Warden's baby. Yeah. And she was like thinking about, well, in her mind, it was like, this might be a good way. It sounded like she was thinking about how to like force the Rephaim and the mortals to come together and have like this catalyst child. But then she was like, I read Breaking Dawn. She said that she read Breaking Dawn. It already did it in like a big way.
Yeah.
She
We got
after like
little Renazzle.
yeah, she was like, I really don't know how I would do it and make it better, and she just abandoned it. But she has said that once she finishes the series, she can see herself like visiting on like her Tumblr or publicly putting up
Like a fan
somewhere.
fiction. Let's
She wants
go.
she said that she's interested in how Paige and Warden would explore parenthood together.
Yeah.
Because she does want to, and like there was like this whole time on her Tumblr where people were like submitting like dad Warden headcanons.
I
Nice.
support
And
that.
it was very much like Paige is the chaotic, like kids are breakable
Yeah.
person. And
He's
but
got
like
bubble wrap on everything.
he's like,
Yes.
no, they can't go roof jumping at 4. And she's like,
I did it.
like, I did it and I turned out fine. Like, rub some dirt on it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
but that's one of the things I like about her is I feel like there's a lot of these authors who kind of like keep these things very close to their chest.
Mhm.
And she's like, no, I was gonna do this thing and I decided not to.
Yeah, it reminds me of the audio that went viral on TikTok recently of like I think it's from Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one. When he finds out that like spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen Guardians of the Galaxy, it's been a really long time, sorry. But like finds out that like his dad put the tumor in his mom's brain and he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I hated having to put that tumor in her brain. And he goes, what? That's how I react every time an author tells me anything that they were thinking of doing but didn't do. Yeah.
See,
yeah.
we're two different people because I think of the DuckTales audio where it's like they were supposed to be named Turbo something
I
something
could have
and
been named
then
Turbo.
Turbo.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love learning these things from her, of these things she was supposed to do. And like, there's just something so refreshing about her going, yeah, I thought about it, and I don't think it'd be, there's any, to what end.
That's fair. I was only saying that I don't know if she's ever done it, but it'd be really cool if she did like a special edition set that had her annotations and stuff.
Oh.
Because like Litjoy did that. Was it Litjoy? I can't remember right now. But like the Vampire Academy series, I'm getting like an edition of those in that like Rochelle Mead like annotated. And that's that's the main reason I like got them was for those annotations.
Anything.
Yeah, I would give a kidney. I would give Kayla's firstborn. You know, like.
Yeah, I
give
choose
the
give
secondborn?
Kayla's firstborn. I think it's got to be the first. I'm sorry.
But she's so precious. She's my baby.
We make the rules, and
That's fair. That's fair.
These are the rules.
It's fair.
These are the rules.
I'll allow it.
I would love to hear her thought, because we actually, like, for my whip and for what we pull on some of the same from John Dee and Edward Kelly, who were like, they worked for Queen Elizabeth as like these like mysticism studiers, and they looked into angels and stuff. And I'm just dying to pick Samantha Shannon's brain on her angel lore and her use of Elizabethan Christian mysticism.
Yeah, I mean, Samantha, listen. It's an open door.
It has been since we read Priory. Like,
it is an open door.
We kicked this off with an open door, an open invitation.
You heard it here first, and we should get the first copy, Samantha.
Yeah. We would do so well. We would promote the crap out of your book.
Truly. Truly.
I'll peddle it down the street. Have you heard about my Lord and Savior? You know, like.
Yeah.
Start a new religion.
Samantha Shannon is actually just such a good gateway into so many types of like broader world building, because I feel like so many people have transitioned from like contemporary romance to romantasy, and then they're looking to get into like high fantasy because they want more of the fantasy element, and I think that Samantha Shannon's just such a good gateway drug into high fantasy and world building.
She is.
No one like her.
Can confirm.
No, literally, that's the thing that drew me to the Bone Season, was I had never heard of anything like it. Like when my friend pitched it to me as like the new book we would be pushing up, I was like, okay, what is it? And I read about like the world. I was like, I've never heard of anything like this. And just the vision is so distinct. And I don't know if you guys know this, but the Bone Season was like optioned by Andy Serkis's production company to be adapted. And I think the rights are gone now. She's discussing it with somebody else. I think I don't quote me on that. I could be wrong. But like,
that's cool. She'll yell at us in the comments. It's fine.
Yeah. So Samantha, tell us what you think. But it's, it just is such a clear vision of like the world that she has in mind, that people want to turn it into stuff. And the neo-Victorian aesthetic is just so neat.
Yes. I'm here for it.
And when you guys get to the Mime Order and just see more of London, like the London that she's made, it's so cool. There's still like all these Victorian aspects of like rickshaws and chestnut stands, and it just she has such the aesthetic.
Yeah, chef's kiss. Well, on that lovely note, we are like an hour and a half. We yapped. We did good.
We had good yapping content.
Yapping content. Yeah. So thank you, dear listeners, for being here. We appreciate you guys for listening to this next episode of Margin Mavens. Thank you, Izzy, for being here. As we start learning more about her book, we will make sure to share it out and
respectfully harass.
Harass. You know, now I'm holding you accountable for those word counts. I'd be watching.
Thank you. But you're behind this week.
Yeah. Well, it's okay.
We can't help that at all. It's fine.
Yeah, this week was weekend.
Thank you both for having me.
Of course.
This was so fun.
This was super fun.
I love talking to people about books, and you guys have such a natural chemistry, and I don't ever stop. You guys,
because we're gay, Your Honor.
Amen.
Gay and shared trauma. That's all we need.
But listeners, we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.